It's funny you mentioned that 'cause my dad's from East Texas and my mom's from Port Arthur, which is like a factory city. And so they had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters. My dad just literally. So I didn't know, like, I just didn't know at times. And so it was like, because I always started. I never was a backup, Appreciate you all. Make sure you like and subscribe. There it is. I always forget to do that. So I'll go with mentorship, right? There's 5 phases of mentorship. If the horse don't want to drink water, let's get vegetables over here. Let's get watermelon, apples, celery that's filled with water. If he doesn't want to do this, let's go over here. Let's make. Listen, I gotta get better. It's a podcast I have that has like 500 views. But number one, they got to understand what this space is. I think a lot of.
Thanks for joining me on the Career Clarity podcast today. Really excited to have you on here with me.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to delve into, we're going to pick into little bits of you, but I'm loving, for those who are watching, everything that we're seeing behind you there. I want to delve into all of these different things that are going on in your world and really get just get a good understanding, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm excited. I got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, which is good. So I'm going to give you the mic first. I'm going to say, Ed, please, give me that introduction on who you are and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah. My name's Ed Jones II. I'm from a small city in the United States called Houston, Texas. I kid, it's a big city. From Houston, Texas. I've loved sports my entire life. I'm from a family of real estate people and professionals, brokers. My dad's a broker. My mom used to sell out entire neighborhoods. Just never stuck with me. I loved sports, I love communication, and I love teaching. And so I was able to do that. Played football, American football, growing up. Had the opportunity to go to the University of Houston. After that, I was a coach. And then after that, I coached for 6 years, got back to my alma mater, and had an opportunity to be a director of player development in college football. So I was able to do that at the University of Houston. I was super excited. And so I was at this University of Houston, University of Kansas, and Baylor University, their football teams for 6 years. And then there was a transition. And so those things stayed with me that I talked about earlier. I love sports, I love communicating, and I love teaching. And so even though I wasn't in the role, I found a way to do those things. So I was able to create a podcast. So I'm excited to be here on your podcast. I was able to create some blogs, a couple of ebooks, and this journey just keeps going, courses, events, summits. And so basically, I'm the founder of Beyond the Field, where we develop people and elevate programs. And so we help people who help athletes make sure that they get their messaging right, make sure they get the resources they need so that they can develop athletes so that programs can elevate. So I'm loquacious, so that is my elevator pitch of me.
Yes. Ed, thank you, man. That's a really good intro. And the bit that I pick out from there is towards the end, you're talking about you help those who help athletes and making sure they're getting their pitch. And one of the bits we were talking about the last time was on the player development. So you talk about events and conferences that you run. Talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so it started when I was in the role. I saw there's a convention called the American Football Coaches Association. They have a convention every single year. And so one year I was there when I was in a transition from a job. All the directors of football operations, the people who were operation heavy, that skill set of logistics, they would just sit in a room and just bounce topics off each other. So I was like, we probably could do that in player development. So I reached out to them, and we didn't get those opportunities. We got a couple chances to speak, which was great, but we didn't get that specific opportunity to have people in a room. And so I'll never forget, I was in a taxi cab in New York headed to the airport, and I was talking to a couple of people I know in this space, and they were like, hey, we need something for us. We need a conference for us. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I'll do a Zoom, because we did a big Zoom during COVID 2020. And so I did a Zoom. I was like, we get 28 speakers. If we could have 28 people show up, perfect. Good event. 114 people showed up, and I was just like, okay, we might be on to something. So, first year, everybody's like, we should do this in person. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, right? I'm like, we're going to do this virtual again next year. So we did it virtually again in 2024. And the price went up because if you run an event one time, you run it again, you realize different things. And so I was like, all right, with the price going up, we'll probably have 40 people, whatever it may be. Had 85 people there. So I was like, oh, sweet. So I was like, all right. And at this point, you did it well twice. So did it in person here in Kansas City where I'm living. And that was a big step of faith. And it actually just ended about a month ago. Yeah, literally a month ago. Yeah, yeah, a month
Hmm.
ago. And so it was a massive success. We had over 100
Brilliant.
people in the room at one time. And I want to say, I forgot to tell somebody, I knew it was 100. I wish I had told one of the interns or students to count everybody. But I think we had more people in person than we did that first year virtually. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting.
There's
It's
something
fun.
about being in person.
Oh,
Getting
it's
there in person, we're human. We
oh,
like this
absolutely.
mix, right?
Oh, absolutely. It kind of changed my whole business model into like, yeah, you have the virtual stuff works because it's easy for people, but the high ticket is in person.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, talk to me about the types of people you got together at your event. Because I've got to say, I admire the fact you went from online, did it again online, and then said, "Okay, let's make this in person." And I admire the fact you've gone and put on an event for people like me, people I work with, people like us to come along and say, okay, how can we better develop players and how can we do this as a community and a network? So I'm keen to understand the types of individuals, the clubs or associations, where did they come from for this event?
Yeah, it was. I'll start with the team that helped me. So I shout out to there's a her name's Lauren King. She's been working with me for 3 years on this. So she's seen it literally go from a meeting October 13th, 2022, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna do it right. And she's seen it to where it is now. And then I had space. There were three other people who helped me: Kenneth Dobbins, Trinity Montero, and Madison Cole, and they all just came along, and I called them my brain tank, right? And then from there, we had 8 students, right? And then we had 5 professional volunteers. I'm telling everybody, like, look, here's the deal. I don't have money to pay. Like, I'm working on sponsorships. I want to get meals. I want to let you know up front, like,
Hmm.
this is what it's going to be. But they were like, we don't care. So I go to the speakers and I stuck to a lot of speakers that have spoke virtually for 2 years. So Dr. Lacey Carmen Johnson with the Toronto Raptors, Jessica Gray with the Detroit Lions, Alexander Martin with the Miami Dolphins, to Brooke Blaine with Arizona football, Savannah Bailey with Florida football. And there's so many more. Dr. Lori Robinson, who's with the Houston Texans.
Hmm.
We had Dr. Jamil Northcutt, who was a senior vice president at MLS. He built out MLS's entire player engagement space. And so he was there. And so you get all these speakers. It was 20. We had some world speakers as well. I don't want to miss anybody's name, but also there's a lot of speakers. So you get them there, and I reach out to them, and they're like, hey, we want to support you. So once again, I'm like, hey, before I make the ask, I just want to let you know if you get a speaking fee, it's probably not going to happen here, right? Or not probably. I could, I'd rather overbill it. It's not going to happen, right? So thankfully, they all came through and really excited about that. And so we had those professionals. So then we're looking at our attendees, right? So now we got to
Hmm.
focus on who the attendees. And so we had, people who were in this space. So people may have just got a job or they're learning it. People that want to transition into this space. We also have people who are on the outside of this space. So your mental health providers, your
Hmm.
I think we had somebody there. One attendee, he's a former prosecutor that is like using it. You just get to know these people because all you see is like so and so paid
Yeah,
for a ticket, so and so paid for a ticket, and so I get a chance to meet him, and I'm like, tell me about yourself, and they're like, oh, I did this. There was one lady who does improv. She was there. A major sports architecture firm here was one of our sponsors. You get to find out about sponsors, and so
yeah,
we had that the 3 core or the 4 core values we had were to grow, network, partner, hire. The higher part is always tough, so we'll probably just go to grow,
yeah.
network, partner.
Partner and hire.
But we got a
Yeah.
room full of like people where you could be on this spectrum of I've done it all to this spectrum of I'm learning, I want to learn. So it was good. It was an intimate space, and I thought it was a
Yeah.
good gathering of people.
That's good. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I like the values as well, and what you've articulated is very much what helps drive me in this podcast and getting people like yourself on to share your journey, but then also for everyone involved to just grow, to grow a little bit, to hear from one of the stories, but then to meet and connect, as I say. But that networking aspect really comes through, and so I think like you say, you started from a point where you could run it from your room,
Mhm.
that and now as you continue, those partnerships become more important because the
Yes,
stronger the partnerships, basically the louder the voice can be to share this
absolutely.
story around supporting individuals achieve their dreams, but then have their life, build good people, not just a top athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you said. Somebody reached out to me. We have this publication called the D1 Ticker that people use all around the world, and so it basically keeps people up to date on what's going on with Division 1 athletics as a whole.
Mhm.
And shout out to Ty Brown. He has it's called a One Question podcast, leadership podcast, and he was like, "Hey, I got a spot if you want to do ads." I was like, I didn't even think about that, so I paid for an ad and got like a 500% return because one of the
Hmm.
sponsors was going in there. So it's just like
Yeah.
people coming along to help you as you get it done. And so, yeah, definitely, I have learned through this the power of partnership. So in the
Mm.
virtual aspect, whenever we drop a speaker, that's when things would kind of go, big. But if you have something in person with all those costs, I've learned the importance of sponsorships because that is loud when people see it and they're like, well, hold on, we want to be in there too. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Well, look, I want to let's take it back a little bit. I always like to get a bit more of the story of, someone who those on the show, people can start to connect and just get this understanding on, um, I guess, some of the driving forces and influences that get you to who you are today.
Yeah.
So, you speak about your family, quite entrepreneurial. That's what I'm hearing. You've got a family of entrepreneurs. I'm guessing from yourself, this is an extroverted family of entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of talking that's going on. Um, but tell me then, from a sporting perspective, you playing American football, how important was sport to you as you grew up?
It was very important. We were blessed athletically as a family. My dad played basketball. He's a high school basketball star. My mom was a high school track star. My brother plays where I just knew sports, right? Growing up, my sister's really, really good at basketball. My other sister was a really good swimmer. And my younger brother, he was the most, he got everybody's athleticism. It's just crazy. And then there was me. So I love sports because it gave me community. I learned community. My dad also was a coach, so he would coach at the local Y, and so I got to see structure and I got to see how you can impact somebody's life through a medium, and that medium was sports. And so I played it because I got to see how I can get the brotherhood from it, but also I was one of those guys when I was a senior, I would take a freshman under my wing, right? And so
Mm.
sports played a big part in our family because there's five of us, and so they had to get us out the house, and so sports was the way to get us out the house. And we're just competitive. I mean, everything was competitive. Very, very competitive family, and so that helped me. That helped me see different things. But going back to what you said, like the entrepreneurial mindset, I didn't think about it till you said it. It was always solve it, right? Just solve it,
Right.
solve it. I actually created an invention when I was 17 because my cousin couldn't attend the event, and I was like, "Why can't he attend the event? Here, all he need to do is do this." And this company offered me 25 or $250,000, and I did turn it down because I was 17. I was like, I was fighting for royalties. But that just kind of tells you where I was at the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna get rich, and I don't want
Yeah.
money too. And so I just saw my parents make things happen and even
Yeah.
take the entrepreneurial aspect into their work, their jobs.
I like what you said was, I know I brought it from an entrepreneurial perspective. You came from it from a solve it. And it's that solution orientation that drives entrepreneurship, that drives, hey, there's a problem here. Why isn't anyone fixing it? Well, then that confidence to say, well, maybe I can give it a shot and step in. And
Absolutely.
so that sort of solve it mentality, I like that. I'm going to pick that one up now. Ed Jones II said the solve it mentality and how that leads to entrepreneurship. That's the second book. This is it. We do this book together.
it's it's funny you mentioned that because my dad's from East Texas and my mom's from Port Arthur, which is like factory city, and so they had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters. My dad just literally, I mean, it was a lot of just quagmire stuff. I think it's MacGyver, whatever they call it. Uh,
MacGyver. Yeah.
make it happen. Like here, we got to
Yeah.
we got to figure it out. So we got a barbecue with toothpicks. Let's figure out how to make a barbecue pit. So yeah,
Right. So sport was always something that you were going to to be doing as a child. Growing up, that was it for you. When did when did you start to either pick a sport or start to recognize I've got a talent here that I can do something with it?
Yeah. The first sport, actually, well, racing. We used to run a lot, and I was actually fast for my size, like very, very fast. And I just didn't. I just thought I never lost, so I just thought everybody was always slower than me. Then you get older, like I probably should have kept running. So I'll never forget first time I played American football. I had a helmet on and I'm running, and I'm like, "What's this noise?" Like, I've never had a helmet, so I didn't realize the wind. I was running so fast, the wind was like
Yeah,
in my ears, and so I'm worried about this noise and this kid
yeah,
like boom right in my front yard. He just takes me out, and I'm like,
yeah,
I might have been 8, so I'm crying. I'm like, I don't want to do this, so I throw it down.
yeah.
I played basketball for a while, and I actually would play up. So for third grade, I would play fifth graders at summer camp, and basketball just came more natural to me, but also got bigger than everybody, and so
Hmm.
start touching people in basketball. They don't let you play much, and so my best friend across the street in our cul-de-sac, he was like, "Hey, they can play football," and I was like, "You know what?" I was in sixth grade, so my parents, my dad, he's like, "Do you want to play?" I was like, "You know what? Let me try it." Like, and they just told me just to tackle people, and that's what I did. I just ran around and tackled people, and so got really good at football. Really, really good. I made some mistakes my sophomore year in high school that messed up my opportunities to get scholarships because I didn't realize all this stuff was happening. I didn't know,
Hmm.
nobody had done it before me, so I didn't know. I also did track and field, so I threw the discus better,
Yeah.
that discus and shot, and I didn't understand, like I just did it more like, okay, I was always like perfect attendance kid. Like I just showed up, right? There was no
Hmm.
like aspect of me understanding how good I actually was. And I found out later some of my teammates didn't tell me because they didn't want to not play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just
Wow.
football. Yeah,
Yeah.
football is pretty easy because it is brute, but it's really a thinking sport, strategy sport. And so I would get like my coaches would get mad because I would see stuff that they were trying to do before they even saw it. So I like the
Mhm.
strategy. And
Right.
so yeah, I got good at that pretty quickly because you start realizing they're like, I'm a freshman and they're bringing me up to varsity and we're playing like Vince Young, and you're just kind of like, why am I here? And then you don't realize, like, you just think
Hmm.
it's happening, like, oh, they put me and 5 of my teammates, like, like, no, they're trying to get you ready
Right.
for varsity.
So
So
you really played. You did. It sounds like all these sports for fun. Like
yeah,
you say, your attendance was great. You showed up. You played,
yeah,
and it just so happened you were picked for these different. You were moved up years or squads,
yeah.
and to you that was just part of playing.
Yeah,
It was.
I didn't understand. Now that I've been on the backside of it and I coach and I'm in college level. And here's a funny story. I had a practice and I had a practice, and the head coach, they're like, "Hey Ed," it was a good practice, and the head
Mhm.
coach is calling me to his office. I'm like, "Oh man, what did I do in English class? Like, I wasn't bad, but I was a little youngster." So I'm like, "Man, she told." I'm like, "Oh man, Miss Evans let them know." So I go to his office, and he's sitting there. There's a coach from Arizona and a coach from Arizona State, and my teammate, he had just signed to go to Arizona, and he told me before, he's like, "Dude, you're the best D lineman I go against." Like, he's like, "You're really good." So they come see practice, and they're like, "Hey," the coach from Arizona is like, "Hey, you had a good practice," and I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And my coach is looking at me like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting recruited," like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, thanks so much, coach." And he was like, the guy before me, he was like, he said that we should watch you, and I'm glad he said that because you really like you fit in our system. And I'm sitting here like, oh, this is happening, right? And so it was funny because it's Arizona, and so Arizona State's their rival. So
Mhm.
the coach of Arizona State stands up, and he's like, "Whoa, yeah, we were good too. You had a good practice, right?" So, and I'm sitting there like my coach is looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at the side of the eye, like, what do I say? He's like, just
Yeah.
don't be. And so I didn't know, like I just didn't know at times,
Mm.
and so it was like because I always started. I never was a backup, until like my senior year. Me and this coach, it was whatever. But yeah, I just it never.
Right.
I just like I didn't get. People were good. I played against good people, but nobody ever like embarrassed me. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I don't know, and I look back at like but it all works out how it's supposed to work out.
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, to be honest, when within your environment you grow up good
Yeah,
and you enjoy it
yeah,
and you perhaps don't recognize the how good you are compared to people outside of your bubble.
Absolutely.
And you've got this thought of, wow, if I knew then I was that good, I'd have pushed. I mean, you show up, you do
Yep.
the work, but I would have found more. I would have been able to keep going and keep pushing. So at what point, or what aspirations did you ever have aspirations to be, I'm at NFL, I'm going, I can go all the way. Did that ever happen for you?
It's interesting you mentioned that. So I think I didn't go to my first football camp until my senior year, literally, which is crazy when I think about it. Because when I was working in high school, we were telling these kids to go to camps freshman, sophomore year. So literally, we had just finished a summer workout, hanging with the guy I play D line. He plays on the other side, and he's like, "Man, I'm gonna go to this camp." I was like, "What's a football camp?" He's like, "UTEP's having a camp. You can get a scholarship if you go." And I'm just like, "Okay, I'll go." And I'm actually doing well. And then we run the 40s, but we had worked out that morning, so like my
Yeah.
legs, I was like, I'm 18 and I'm not thinking,
Yeah.
or 17, I'm not thinking recovery, right? I'm like, hey, let's go to McDonald's and then go there. So when I was done playing, I knew I wanted to continue to play. So I went to University of Houston. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go be a walk on because University of Houston, going back to what I always wanted to work in sports. And University of Houston was the only school I visited that had a sports administration degree, and they had it listed out. Every other school say do business school and then you go to sports, but I wanted to study
Mm.
sport.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to University of Houston. I'm gonna try out for the team and walk on. I know I'm not going to NFL, so I want to continue to play football. But if it doesn't work out there, I'm going to school for what I want to go to. Because I had opportunities to play at smaller schools, which is crazy now when I think about it. There was one school, a local school, who was trying to recruit me and another guy, and we would never leave the classroom. And they kept telling our English teacher, she's like, "What is wrong with y'all?" Like,
Yeah.
but it was tough for me because I didn't even think scholarship, I didn't think money, I didn't think like going to school for
So
free. Oh, yeah,
yeah. So what were you thinking at this time? And from a family of athletes, entrepreneurs, how come this didn't sit? How come the parents weren't like, you get out of class, go get your scholarship?
yeah.
What was that? What was going on?
Well, number one, I didn't tell them. So the second thing too was this university, they had lost for like a decade. They hadn't won a game in a decade, and I've
Mhm.
always won. And I didn't want to be a loser. Like it really was that simple. I mean, I hate to make it that simple, but me and him, and he ended up going to the school. He didn't play, but they would keep. And our English teacher was like, "What?" I'll never get her name, Miss Tull. Shout out to Miss Tull. She's like, "What is?" Where she literally came to my desk, grabbed my desk, and was like, "What is wrong with you? Like this coach has been here all week." And the only reason he can't come to this room is because of our rules, right? And so he's like, so I was just like, she's like, why don't you just go down and talk to him? But I didn't want to lose. I hated losing. Like I'd always, every team I was on, we won. We were a winning team. So that's really that at 17, that's 8 or 18 at the time. That's all that went through my
Yeah.
mind. I don't want to
Mhm.
lose. It wasn't, hey, I'm not going to the NFL. I go to school for free. I could be debt free. I just didn't want to lose because of showing up every time in my life, showing up for sport, the result of showing up, giving great effort and all that was winning. So I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
showing up and
Doing
just,
that,
yeah, and losing.
losing. Yeah.
Because they had won a game for a decade. I think they had the NCAA's longest streak. And so I just, now hindsight, of course, I'm like, well, but once again, the University of Houston, it worked out. It was all good. And so I went there to try out, and I actually tried out, and I had one of those, as an athlete, those outer body experiences where you're like, whoa, I'm moving fast. I was beating everybody. I'm feeling good. Like this is the best I've ever felt. And so the next day they have the people who make the team, and I don't see my name. And so I read it again. I walk away, come back to the door, read it again. And it was, I guess at that point, went to go eat lunch. And I was like, and these guys that were on the team who I knew, they came and they were cussing me out because they were like, dude, how are you going to miss the team meeting? You made it. And I'm like, I didn't make the team. And they're like, wait, we were at the tryout. Like, how did you not make the team? I was like, I didn't make the team. And so there is kind of when I was just like, you know what? I was glad I was at a university. I had my time to deal with it, and my career was over at that point. But I knew what I wanted to do. And so it's crazy talking
Yeah.
about it, but that's kind of how my sports career was.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then, we talk then about, you got this love of sport, you're recognizing, well, yeah, you're recognizing, hey, you're not making NFL. So you start thinking about, I guess, ways you can stay in sport. So careers that enable you to stay in sport. Um, how did you pick, why not go down I'll say an agent route, or why not be a coach, a pure coach and do that studies? How did you come about? studying sports, I guess administration and doing things like that?
Yeah, it came down to, like, once again, my family's real estate. They were all like, "Do you sure you?" I was like, "I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it." My mom's like, "You should get your teaching certificate because you like teaching." And I knew that you could do alternatives. I knew you can get a degree and then go back and do alternative certification. So it's like I want my degree. Originally, I did go into it to be a sports agent, and crazy, I was like, sports agents spend too much time away from their family, and I was a coach, so that tells you everything I need to know. But I started there, and then I was like, you know what? I think I want to be athletic director, and so what I enjoyed at the University of Houston, we were one of the first schools to have a sports management program, but our professors were just incredible of how they taught us and how in depth every situation. I mean, I've learned physiology. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. Anatomy, risk management. We learned human development. We learned. I mean, it was expansive of everything to facilities, right? To it was a lot, and I really enjoyed it. And so, getting towards the end of it, I was like, I did a marketing internship my sophomore year, junior year, and my senior year. So I thought I wanted to do marketing. Marketing was my minor, actually. So I did sports administration. I did a minor in marketing at the Bauer School of Business, which is a big time business school, not only in the state of Texas but in the United States. And so I was like, I like this marketing thing. It just kind of works for me. I was always kind of had a catchy, kind of. I would always say stuff. People would be like, "That's pretty catchy, right?" So I just did that and did that for 3 years and got some connections, and I missed my marketing GA meeting. It's the one time I didn't set an alarm
Right.
in college, and I missed the meeting and I missed out on that opportunity. And I just went back to what I knew. I knew I still like going back. I like communicating and like teaching. And so whenever we had interns, I was one of the head interns to help people. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get into teaching and coaching, and that's kind of how it happened. But I like the full aspect of coaching. Like, it wasn't just coaching; it was how do we help players and how do we build a program? How do we set culture? How do we interact with former players? How do we interact with parents? And so it was just all that
Mm.
stuff that I learned gave me the opportunity to continue to do that stuff because I like it
Yeah.
all. I like systems in a sense.
Right. I talk a lot about when people are looking for their next sort of career and they think, okay, I'm not where I want to be, or I don't feel like I'm where I should be. And I talk a lot about getting in the right game, just getting on the right field of play, and the position will sort itself out. So
Absolutely.
get in, the role will come, but as long as you're somewhere where you are interested, you're energized, and you'll find somewhere that you can be good, you can start to excel at that. And as I listen to your story, what you really exemplify that. You are someone who has said, okay, I want to be in sport, and I'm in sport administration, coaching, teaching, development, directorship. I'm not sure, but I'm going to be in that space. And
Absolutely.
then from that, you've you were then able to start to shift out or work out, well, I need to be somewhere where there's some element of teaching or education that I'm giving, and I need to communicate at the same time. So I'm in sports, I'm educating individuals, and I'm having to communicate. And by feeling out, by internships, by then supporting other students, by doing what you can in your area,
Mhm.
you started quite simply mapping out areas of expertise in this chosen field of sport. That
Right.
seems, yeah. Does
Yeah,
that sound?
it's crazy you say it, but actually that's true.
Yeah, because we say, because I'm like, I want to ask you, so what was the plan? But I said, I'm perhaps reading ahead into what the answer is, but the answer was, I'm just in the space. And you were doing things you enjoyed. You were doing things that you became good at.
Yeah. I like impacting people. And that's just people are like, "What's your dream job?" And I was just like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it would be. I used to say like I want to be a team president because I felt like a team president could impact the entire organization. But then I'm like, I can impact the organization where I'm from, right? And so it's
Mhm.
part of it too. Is like the way I was. My dad actually taught us. It's just crazy talking about this. But when we played, my dad played basketball, so that was my first sport. But he always taught us to play all five positions. And so we were always, everybody had to bring up the ball. You had to learn how to be a point guard. You had to learn how to space it out. Then you had to learn how to be a two. You had to learn how to play. You had to learn how to play defense on the top of the key, defense on the baseline. So that then helped me when I played football because I played D lineman and I knew we had three D line. I could play the end, I could play the nose, I could play the tackle. And so I got on the field early because the coaches knew I knew everything. Like, I literally got in trouble one time with a coach because, and this is the coach who didn't play me my senior year. And part of it was he had just came in And here I am, the defensive lineman. He's sending a cornerback blitz, and I'm telling him, like, coach, you have to call a color, because if you don't call a color, the safety's going to think it's man, and the quarterback's going to see it. He's going to throw a touchdown. And so he's in the meeting, and he's like, "Oh, here we go. We got the nose guard telling me how to run defense." And so I'm like, I don't say anything. And then guess what happens? We go to practice. He calls zip without calling in. We always say zip white or zip green or something. He just calls zip, and the quarterback sees it, and he literally throws an 80-yard touchdown in practice. And here I am running after the receiver, like, right? But it's just, my dad always taught us to like know everything,
Yeah.
because he would say the value is in being adaptable. The value is in being a utility player. The value is in, if they need you to do something, you can do it. And then when I work with people in athletics, you're just like, oh, you only know how to do one thing. Like, you're specialized, right? And it's just like working. I always make this joke. Anybody that works in the SEC, to me, I always feel like they never worked, because there's 80
So
of them.
works in where, so?
The SEC, which is the big Southeastern Conference, that's the big football conference here, and they say it's like the closest thing to the NFL. So whenever I work with people at SEC, I always give them a hard time, because they have these huge staffs. Like, their football staff would be like 120 people. And so, like, one time this guy was like, this printer, how do I do this? It's like, it's giving you directions. Go to the next thing, press next, and get it done. He's like, but somebody, I was like, no, you're going to do it. Press next and get it done. Like, this is something that you can learn. This is something that can help you. And so some people just don't, they just specialize, and they just stay in
Yeah,
the lane. I want to know what people do, just so I see how I can help. So,
like that. Yeah, again, that, how do we say it? Love of learning, going out, keep pushing yourself, bringing in knowledge. But I think also, to me, what you've described is a path towards empathy. So is a path towards putting yourself in someone else's shoes so you can understand what it is they have to go through, in this instance, to print. So if I ask someone to go and print 500 copies of something, it's like, okay, I know what they have to do. I know how to, use their help solve that problem. Um, and so do you find that, I guess, when you think about being in this world of sports, and you know, not only have you been in that sort of player development type position, but now you're in a position where you're helping player development managers to do their job better, which sounds like that same empathetic leadership, that understanding and knowledge.
yeah, it's the basis of Beyond the Field and the book and the summit and the blogs and whatever somebody's seen is, when I started in 2016 from a high school coach, there was nothing to go to. There weren't any resources. And I had to figure it out, which I enjoy. But it also, like, I had great relations with the players, but I was like, man, if I'd had these tools, we would have been able to do so much more. And so I've created all this so nobody, like, I was a high school coach. I didn't know anything about player development. So if another college coach grabs a high school coach, says, hey, come do this, they have this, or they have the blog or the YouTube channel or whatever. And so it's that empathy of, like, I remember what it was like to sit in meetings, and like, the strength coach, they have a deal. Academics says something, and they come to me, and I'm like, I mean, the players, they look like they're maturing, and everybody laughs because I don't have anything to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And so it is empathetic. And it's like, for me, somebody asked me, like, when are you going to stop the podcast? And I was like, I don't know, because I just think of something every time I'll go back in the old file, like, oh, yeah, I need to let them know this, because that is something that can help. And so I've just always wanted to help people. It's somebody asked me, I was on somebody was like, so where did that come from? I was like, that's just how I'm wired. Like, it's how I was raised. You just have to, we always help people. Like, that is, if you
Yeah.
wanted to eat in our house, you had to help somebody.
You better help make the food. Don't just come and sit
Right.
at the table. Yeah,
Right.
or else it's not there for you. So tell me. So you've got a book. Tell me about the what's the book about? What inspired you to then write the book, and how? So that's three questions all in one.
Yeah. So this is the player development guide here. Let me pull it so everybody can see it. Player development guide right there. It's on Amazon. There, you get on my website, but Amazon works the best for people. But
Yep.
basically, wrote this because this is a combination. I wrote an ebook, and I wrote another book for coaches, and I was just like sitting there, and somebody was like, "Hey, you should probably put both of them together." So I did, and I added some other stuff. But this is based. I'll tell you a little bit about what's in here. So it's broken down into three parts. The first part one, is what is player development. So if somebody buys this book and they don't know anything about player development. So me in 2016, right?
Yeah.
What is player development, right? Then the second part is the Beyond the Field program, what I use to have success in the role. And then the third part is the secret sauce, like all the stuff nobody's telling you about, like engaging your alumni,
Yeah.
mentorship, all that stuff, right? And so this can be picked up by any coach, anybody that's interested in player development, colleges, whatever it may be. But it really, once again, I just wanted to
Mhm.
leave something for people to be able to get what they need.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that, I mean, it's really that it's just a guide. I mean, it helps. And people, it asks questions. And what I always wanted to do is I always want to give people what I did, but not make what I've done like the only way, if that makes sense. Like it's like,
Mhm.
hey, here's how I had success, but your team's gonna be different. Like your sport's gonna be different. Your culture may be different. You're in another country, sports may be different, right? So yeah, it's a guide to help people there. And so the marketing is me is like, all right, I gotta get this back up. I can't just lay it down. But but yeah, so that's the bit.
So tell me then. So I mean that sounds great. So we've got there what is player development. It talks about how you operate as beyond the field, and then you've got some elements of the secret sauce. So for those, so let if you don't mind, just share one of those secret sauce um, elements. You know,
Yeah,
people have got this far in their podcast. It's good. They've
all right.
listened for 30 minutes. They deserve a little bit of something. So,
Absolutely. And
what's
I
one of those secret sauce?
appreciate you all. Make sure you like and subscribe. There it is. I always forget to do that. So I'll go with mentorship. Right, there's 5 phases of mentorship, and I learned this once again. My coach thought this was important, but I just took it to the next level. So there's mentorship. You have player to player. So when a player comes in the organization, you have an experienced player or somebody from maybe the same area, but they're there. You have player to player. You have former player to player. So now you're bringing in your former players, your legends, alumni, whatever it may be. You have staff to player. So this isn't necessarily the coach, but someone on staff. So if a player wants to learn about, like for instance, we had a player who wanted to learn about being an athletic director. His dad was athletic director, but he didn't want to learn from his dad. I get it. It's cool. So we had different steps. We have professional, or excuse me, staff to player. So someone on athletic staff. Then we have professional to player. So this is somebody that is in the city, maybe alumni, maybe not, but somebody in a professional field that is not associated with our organization who becomes a mentor for the player. Right. We had one player, he was just like, I just want to learn from entrepreneurs. So we just got him set up with entrepreneurs. And now he's an entrepreneur. He's selling coffee. It's awesome. And then the last one we put on the player, which is the player to the community. Now our players, so the players had 4 different ways. If you come in a program, you've had a player mentor you, had a former player mentor you, somebody on staff has mentored you, and a professional has mentored you. And now it's your turn. It's your turn. You're going to go mentor the community. So that's the secret sauce. Those 5 steps of mentorship. This is things that coaches always talk about, right? Everybody talks about it, but does anybody have the structure? And so the book has the structures that coaches talk about. Every coach is like, we got to do mentorship. Well, what does that look like, coach? And then the coach can say, well, I paid you to do it. Awesome. Here you go. Here's 5, right?
I like that. Listen, even just hearing it, like you said, many coaches, development managers they'll know how to mentor. What
Mhm.
you've just described there is a structure. As I say, it's a great system. We're following it and saying, okay, if you have a player in mind and you recognize, well, I should be their mentor, but it's not working. By simply looking at your secret source of 5 different types of mentorship, you're certainly increasing the chance of
Absolutely.
having of that player becoming a successful mentee because
Absolutely.
they will get it from those different angles or different perspectives. And perhaps that last one, that important one, is then delivering that back to the community. They themselves become that mentor.
Absolutely. I mean, it created so much value for our program and the community involved. Like, and it helped me because I learned this from one of my coaches. He's like, if these guys don't do what they're supposed to do academically, or whatever, or socially, they're not going to mentor. I would never forget. I had a player at a university. He had a rough week, and I was like, hey man, here's the deal. We're about to go to school. I'm gonna tell little Timmy that you couldn't make it because you can't make the decisions that you're trying to help little Timmy make. No, 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 no. You can't tell him that. I said, well, we're about to leave, and I'm gonna tell little Timmy that you have not made the decisions that you've been telling little Timmy. And little Timmy was hurt when he wasn't there. And then that player got straight because he's like, man, I can't miss little Timmy. And I got to tell our coach. I said, coach, because we have this mentorship aspect, this player is on the right path because he doesn't want to miss his time with little Timmy every week, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
that's for all the coaches, managers, and executives that worry about discipline. Hey, there's ways.
Yeah.
There's ways.
But that's good, and there definitely are ways, and I think that can be successful in helping athletes become better individuals, better people, and but doing that through sport and through the role or the position they hold in the community as an athlete. And in this example, you've got little Timmy who very quickly looks up to this young man, young woman of 18, 19 years old who suddenly recognizes, oh wow, hold on, I'm doing this for me because I enjoy it, but suddenly I recognize the impact that it has on others, and that hopefully helps them round out to be an even better human being, let alone a better player or athlete.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm interested for you. Just there's a moment where at 18 or 18, 19, you recognize that you're not going to the NFL, that you're not going to be this pro player. Did What sort of impact did that have on you at the time?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It took some burden off of me. My parents didn't have that burden on me, but it just took burden off of me. I was able to be 18, like to be a student. When I always joke when I didn't make the University of Houston football team, I actually went from being a D lineman. I got in some pretty good shape and got down to linebacker. And the coach there, our my during my marketing internship, our executive assistant moved to football, so I would always go visit her, and the coach would look at me, and I was like, oh no, he wants me to come play. And he asked her one time, does he want to play? And I told her, I said, hey, I'll be honest. I like being a student. I like what I'm finding out about myself. I know what sports are, and like sometimes I won't regret, like, or I ask myself what would have happened if I would have done it. I still don't think I would have went to the NFL, but I had a chance to play college football. It made me then take that from a goal to like, okay, what's your next goal? Like you have to have a goal. Since that one's gone, what are we gonna do? Like, and graduation was the next one, but I hate to say this, but I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna graduate because I'm gonna show up. I've done it my whole life. What's the next goal? What does this do? And so removing that dream burden, whatever you want to call it, it's allowing me to look at what's next and really take advantage and be in the moment of every opportunity that was given to me.
You know, it's interesting then that because the first description you used was burden, and it, so I'm wondering, to be NFL, it sounds, or maybe it was never actually your dream. You just played because you played,
Yeah.
and by removing someone else's dream, and it doesn't mean that was thrust upon you by parents, but perhaps just even friends or players. Well, if you're that good, then you must want to keep going and play. And you were able to remove that and then focus on a goal that you were then able to create yourself.
It
Yeah.
was it's crazy you mentioned. I didn't think it was realistic. So actually, when I didn't make the University of Houston football team, there's a Texas Southern University is an HBCU that's across the street, and they had a defensive lineman who was going to go play in the NFL. And so my trainer, he was like, "Dude, you can go play with him, and you can do well, and you'll get a shot because scouts are coming." I'm still thinking to myself like, I don't think I'm that good. I was just like, I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to graduate with a sports administration degree. It's okay. But that conversation came back up again, and I'm like, what is I'm very realistic. Like
Mm.
there's
You
people
know,
that are optimistic, yeah, but
what's interesting bit. So as you know, in our roles, what we see the we see where individuals can become, and we often believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And often I guess, um, is it the purpose? Often the purpose of our role then is to help them see that they can be more than just the player, or more than just X, and then let them see that, and then help them build a scaffold to actually achieve it. It sounds like you didn't have that. It sounds that you didn't have someone who said, super bluntly, but I believe in you more than you believe in yourself. This is where you can become. And now here's the 10-step program to get you there. I'm going to help bring you along that path. Right? Yeah, you had
no, I agree.
you,
I agree.
yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, where would I have been if somebody had been like, "Hey, we see a lot of you know talent in you, but you can do it." But I will also say this: there was a coach my freshman year that they brought the varsity D line coach, and he came to freshman
Mm,
practice. And the defense coordinator was like, "Hey, this Ed Jones guy's really good." And D line coach was like, he always. I used to hide. This is gonna sound. I used to hide from him in the bathroom stall. And so I would literally go to, and I pick my feet up to make sure he couldn't see. And because I was so afraid of him because I didn't understand he was trying to make me better. He was just such a
Mm,
hard coach on everybody. And then
yes.
my defensive coordinator, he told me after my sophomore year, and like I said, academic, I failed off the track team. So I messed up the end of my freshman year. And he told me, he said, Ed, you need to stay here. Like there's potential there and you need to stay. But that just didn't
Hmm.
register with me. Like
Yeah.
nobody, and no fault their own. If they just said, hey, we want you to play varsity and you're going to be this. And if you play varsity as sophomore, you're going to get reps. And then if you get reps, there's going to be colleges look at you. You have an opportunity to go to school for free. Now that's a totally different deal. And I
Hmm.
did that when I coached just to be fair. But then I remember I had one teacher. This had nothing to do with football. You had to in Texas, you had to have a 70 to play. You have to pass to play. And so
Yeah.
I told her, I was like, I just want a 70 to. I always said she failed me. She didn't fail me. I had a 67, and she was like, Ed, I'm not giving you a 70. She said you're an A student. I'm like, no, I'm not. It was algebra or math or some high level math because I was in it. I was actually in it with students a year ahead of me, so I was already ahead of the curve. And she was like, you're brilliant. She's like, you just don't give any effort. And I was like, but I do. She's like, no,
Mm.
you don't. And I was like, well, I just want a 70. She's like, you're not getting a 70. She said, you will not play football till you get an A. I went from a 70 to a 95 in like 3 weeks. And so it's
She's
just like,
right.
but then it was crazy because then like the guy who I was behind most of the time, he got a scholarship to North Texas. I was like, hey man, try and put me on, right? When I'm finding out what scholarships are. And he was like, I don't want you to take my spot. I was like, wait, you thought I could take your spot this whole time I've been here? He's like, yeah. I was like, why didn't you let me know? He was like, because you would take my spot. And I was just like, yo, I didn't. And I'm sitting here like he's the man, and he's thinking like, I got
Yeah.
it. This guy behind me is
That's
going to
right.
take everything.
That's
So
right.
I do sometimes wonder if I'd have had that person who was like, hey, set me down, because I had to do this with a player.
Hmm.
We had a real heart to heart. Like, and I told him, I said, hey, what I'm about to tell you may hurt your feelings. And I called his mom. Is like, hey, it's gonna get really real in here. But it helped him, and he had an opportunity to get his grades straight, and he played Division One football. So sometimes I wonder if what my life would have been like if somebody would have
Hmm.
just grabbed me because I wasn't a bad kid. I just wasn't. You can tell by the story. I was
Hmm.
just there. Like I just
Yeah.
yeah.
You showed up. You showed
Right.
up, but the that purpose, that North Star wasn't necessarily shown to you with a path to get there.
Right.
And but then or should I say, but with that, then showing you how to do it.
Right.
And look, this is one of the things that again, it's the purpose of that underlying purpose of the Player Development Summit. It's the underlying purpose of this Second Win podcast um, is capturing that one more person. If I could just help, as a community, if I can help 1% more or get 1% better every time, we'll bring in that one extra kid, that one extra player who will come in, that one extra player development manager, because we need options. And sometimes one route just doesn't, it doesn't matter what we do. And I
Yeah.
was speaking to another PDM, player development manager, the other day, and he was really saying, you you know you can bring a horse to water, but
Absolutely.
you can't make it drink.
Right.
And he's like, so okay, so how do we help more of them recognize sooner that they need to drink so they don't just dehydrate and die? And
See,
that's what it's about. Yeah.
it is, and I love what you said. So my take on that, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Then my thought process that we got to find some options to get this horse hydrated. If the horse
Yes.
don't want to drink water, let's get vegetables over here. Let's get watermelon, apples, celery that's filled with water. He doesn't want to do this. Let's go over here. Let's make this water.
Yeah.
Let's add a little sugar to the water, a little salt to the
Hmm.
water. But like we have to find an option because this horse has to hydrate because we got to get
Yes.
on the horse to get out of here, right? And
Yeah.
so so I've changed in
Yeah.
that, like, okay, so for instance, we would go community impact, and originally we were just doing one thing. And so one player said, hey, well, I don't like going in front of kids because I don't like reading in front of kids. And so I had to go back and think, like, well, how can we give them an option? So we had four options. You could go, it was education, it was the environment, it was health, and it was hunger. So we gave them four options. Like, if you want to, like, a coach would be like, my players don't ever want to go to schools. Awesome, coach. But they can go to these three other places. And so it's like,
Hmm.
on our end, it is frustrating. No, I do know that. But then after I sit down, I'm like, all right, we got to find a way to hydrate the horse. So let's hydrate the
Yeah.
horse.
That's right. And that is it. And again, it's solve it, right? It's we have a problem. We know where we want to get to. How are we going to help individuals? How are we going to hydrate the horse and make something a bit better? So as you look at where you are now, right? what's that North Star for you? And how are you going to, or how are you making sure you're going to get there? What's your support network? How are you going to, I suppose, not repeat what has happened before, or now you recognize it? What's your strategy?
So for me, it's probably the hardest thing is connections and people. I like to because I'm the type of person I'll go eat lunch by myself. I'll go to a movie by myself. Like I don't, I'll just do whatever I want to do by myself, and like I'll put out content. I don't care what it looks like. I'm just like I just need to get it out. So for me, there is wisdom in others, and I learned this during the summit. And so having that, I think I'm at a place which is crazy because now going back to when people saw stuff, now being at the summit was what everybody saw that before I saw it. So I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, well, let me catch up to what everybody's seeing. So there's people who I'll never forget. We had a speaker who, when I drove him back to the airport, he told me, I told him this is what Beyond the Field is. This is what we do at the University of Kansas football team. He looked me dead in my eyes. He said, you need to make this LLC because by the time you're 40, this would be a big deal. Then I talked to another guy who I work with at Baylor University. He said, he saw my structure. He said, man, you need to make this company's going to be big time. So it's like, okay, so then what I need to do? Okay, number one thing is I'm creative, but what hurts a creative person? Systems. So let me create systems, and then for me, there are people who are losing this job, and I love impacting people. I want to be able to hire someone because then I can
Mm.
literally impact people, and I know how many people I need to hire. But I also know you got to get funding, and I know you have to do like. And so for me, the North Star is very scary because it's like hey, like people
Yes.
are like, what's everybody's like, what's next? And so you're like, okay, how do we balance it? So making many, many more connections, but I think for me, staying in the lane that I'm in because that's what's helped. But also opening up my mind and just stepping out in faith. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Oh well, like it's a rep that
Yes.
didn't pay
Mhm.
off. So but to answer it more strategic, it'd be more. I think the first North Star for me is for this to be full time for me, and then for it to make enough to where I can hire someone, and then for it to make enough so we can hire somebody else, and then just go from there.
I like that. I like it a lot. So look, for you thinking about coming into the PDM space, the player development space and arena, when they come and approach you and say, what do I need to do to get into this space? What guidance or advice do you give to them?
Yeah, it's something that they don't like to hear, but it's a 5 step process, and I think I forgive me if I forget some of it. I like processes, but I'm just systems. I got to get better.
Yeah.
It's a podcast I had that has like 500 views. But number one, they got to understand what this space is. I think a lot of people see the pictures and they think it's you get to go to community, or you get to do career stuff. Like that's like 10% of the job. So number one is understanding this space. Number two is they need to know their value. What value can you provide? Because a lot of times, like when I got hired, I was talking to the Tom Herman, the head coach at University of Houston, about our kids that they could recruit, and he was like, I want you. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, so what can you provide to my program? I was like, oh, this, that, right? So you need to know your value. The third one is they need to network, right? You need to reach out. Need to know people, but do it strategically. Um, then they need to. So intentionality is another big one. There, they need to be intentional, right? Like, don't ask somebody in player development what is player development. Like, find that out somewhere, right? Go watch one of my podcasts. Go watch them, but get intentional when you have that time. And then the other one I think is you have to prepare. You got to create some type of plan. It may not be a fleshed out plan, but you got to create something because I've heard people. The way I do it is like if I interview somebody, I'm saying, all right, by they would come in, I fly them in at night, right? And somebody did this to me strategic. It was pretty cool. You fly me in, you get them in on a last flight, 9 o'clock flight, and then 8 o'clock, you got to. I'm telling you in a text, hey, I'm so glad you landed. Tomorrow morning, you need to have a plan of how you would handle this, right? So you need to start creating that muscle because John Wooden says when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. And
Mhm.
so there's some other stuff there, but number one is they got to know what they're getting into because if you don't love people or love being around people, don't do this.
Mhm.
I used to tell people all the time, they're like, "What's the hardest, the students or the adults?" I was like, "The adults, the adults are the hardest." But yeah, that's what I would give advice to people looking to get into
Yeah.
space.
Okay. Listen, Ed, I just want to say a massive thanks for coming on. And I'm going to say sharing your story, but quite simply having a conversation. Really appreciated learning a bit more about you and what you're building with Beyond the Field and the Player Development Summit. So I definitely wish you best of luck and let's keep in
Appreciate it.
touch.
Absolutely, will do.